Well, hey, mamas, I want to know, is your teen ready for finals? Does your college student, does your high school student really have a study routine in place? Or is your child just hoping that there's going to be all sorts of tips and tricks and basically some strategies to use day of? Let me know down below because I got to tell you, your child needs a plan for finals. Okay. And the sooner your child starts studying, the sooner your child really is ready for finals instead of going, I'm just going to cram, I can just wait until like the week of, the better it's going to go for each and every class, like each grade in each class, let alone the grade on each final exam. So if you're interested, be sure to stick around because I want to tell you the steps of creating a study routine for finals specifically. And this actually happens to be a discussion I just had with a high schooler, actually a high school freshman, that's a current student of mine. He is taking his finals for his second semester. So last semester didn't go so great. So that's why I'm stepping in to help him and hopefully help all of you with your teens and their finals. Now, do know there are a couple awesome resources for you in the description. Number one is a link to book a consultation. So if you love to help your teen with finals and with those study skills in general, book a free consultation with me, Jessyka Coulter, the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring. And I also have 10 questions that your child has to ask before finals, before really any test. It's only $9. You can grab it at the link in the description. All right. So you're here because you want your child to have a better routine for studying for finals. It all starts with that finals schedule. Okay. When is what final? That's what your child has to know. We cannot even begin to start figuring out what to study, when to study, any idea what the routine is until your son, until your daughter knows the schedule. So that's step number one. Number two is all about the materials. Okay, what is your child studying? And this kind of goes into more details on that guide that I have, those 10 questions, because it depends on the class, right? It depends on the teacher. Does your child have an ebook? Is it a physical textbook? Are there going to be lots of notes? Are there homework assignments? Are there PowerPoints? Like, what exactly does your child need to use as a study resource? Okay, and if your child does not know, like that's a problem, right? So it depends on your child's age and grade level. Is there a study guide? Is there going to be a review session? Is it just basically, hey, the teacher's going to test your child on anything that was written on the board all year or something he just kind of said in class one day? All right. Your child really, really has to know what materials to study to then know how to include those in the routine. And step three goes directly into those resources because there's probably going to be some questions. All right. If your college kiddo learns, okay, I need to review chapters 1 through 18, that's a lot of material, like a lot of material to have on a final. Is it possible? Yeah, for sure. It depends on where in the world you're watching from, let alone depends on that teacher, right? And how short the chapters are. Okay. So maybe your child did really, really well with chapters like 1 through 8 and then got really lost from like chapters 9 through 12. Okay. If we're trying to create a study routine here, I ask you, mamas, how can your child possibly study chapter 9 if he doesn't get it? Like if he's just plain confused. So there's a couple questions to ask there. Number one would be, okay, what do I have to know from chapter 9? Like, is it even important or not? Or is it just going to be like 2 questions? Because that's a choice right there. If we're like really short on time, your child only has like 2 days to study for this final, and chapter 9 is a trouble spot, and B, something that's not going to be asked a lot about on the final, well, then maybe it's not even worth studying, not even really worth including in the routine, really thinking about it. Now, does this qualify as a tip or a trick? In my world, not really. It's just kind of common sense. But at the same time, maybe it is a trick if you want to consider a trick as in being smart about what your teen studies makes time for. Okay. The caveat to that would be, we're talking, an example I think you gave was chapters 1 through 18. Well, what if chapters like 12 through 18 really rely on your teen understanding the foundations shared in chapter 9? Well, suddenly chapter 9 becomes a lot more important and goes back to that step of asking questions. Okay. And how your teen asks questions, like, is it in person? Is it like by an email? Who your teen asks questions? Is it a friend? Is it a classmate? Like all these things, those are all addressed in that guide. Those 10 questions to ask before any test. And they're going to make a big difference into that routine. Is this like a one afternoon thing? Is this like 3 days I need to dedicate to asking questions? Okay. So before I go too much further, I want to say thanks so much for watching here, both on Facebook and on YouTube. If you're not a subscriber, if you're not a follower, we'd love to have you as a subscriber on YouTube. We'd love to have you as a follower on Facebook, because there are going to be so many more videos coming your way at least 3 days a week. So if you aren't subscribed, you aren't following, you're going to miss out on those notifications when I go live, when I post new videos. All right. So there are really 3 more steps to include in this study routine. So if you're kind of sit down with your young adult and you're trying to figure out, okay, what are you going to do? How are we getting through finals week? And hopefully, as your child gets older, your child will do this on his own, her own. But once we really know, okay, what's the final schedule? What materials do I even need to consider studying? And then making sure we've got whatever questions answered. From here, it goes, okay, today is whatever date. The finals are whatever date. What are we going to do every single day between today and that particular final? Okay. Your child needs to sit down, figure out, am I studying this class? Am I studying this chapter of this class? Like, you really need to have your teen figure out exactly what's being studied and when it's being studied every single day. Now, this is something we can talk more about in our one-on-one lessons. So just know we're kind of getting the ball rolling, getting your teen thinking about what's going on in finals. Okay, and how are we getting ready for this study routine? From here, the question really now becomes, okay, what are those tough spots? Okay, because if your teen decides I'm going to study chapter 3 for like history on 4 different days, but chapter 3 is the easiest chapter for your teen in that whole class, well, then why is your teen spending so much time on that? Okay, that does not make sense. So we're repeating the tough spots, or repeating the spots where your teen is really struggling. So that means that as your teen's studying, that's kind of the final step, is really to keep track of what's going well, what's not going so well. Okay, because your teen really needs to make time for the things that are really important, that are going to be like a big part of the final, and then actually making sure we're touching base, going back to review those things multiple times that are tougher, that are harder, that are things your teen's struggling with, so long as they are important to the teacher, a big part of the final. So again, are we really doing a tip, a trick, we're kind of gaming the system? I want your teen to learn. I want your teen to know everything about everything on those finals in every class, no matter if we're talking this semester or 3 years from now. But at the same time, when we're creating the study routine, we want your teen to know what to study, why to study that, how to study it, and make sure we're really, really focused on the right things at the right time. So if you have questions, let me know down below. If your teen already has like a study routine in place for finals, I'd love to know. If we are trying to even figure out where to start, we're trying to go, how do we survive this? I want my teen's finals to go well. Then be sure, 1, to schedule a free consultation, and to grab those 10 questions to ask before any test, so your teen can really start thinking about, what do I need to know? What questions do I need to ask? And how can I really be as ready for these finals as I want to be? So thanks so much. Have a great night. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.